We now come to the last book of the law, Deuteronomy. As with all the Pentateuch, Moses is the author, as Jesus had said. It was delivered at the close of the 40th year of the Exodus from Egypt, just prior to Moses' death and the invasion of Canaan. The name Deuteronomy means the second law. The Jews called it a repetition of the law, but it is more than just a repetition. There was an expounding of the law and an application to their future life in Canaan. What were some purposes for the writing of Deuteronomy? Well, it was part of the final preparations before the children of Israel would enter the promised land, Canaan. It reminded people of what God had done for them, so it was a remembering. It was addressed to the common people for everyday guidelines for them to remain godly. It explains the end of Moses' career and how Joshua would become the leader. An analysis of the book shows there are 5 separate discourses of Moses with a song of Moses at the close. And then there was a final chapter about Moses' death. The last chapter was doubtless added by some other inspired writer following Moses' death, and that may have been Joshua. It could be divided up into 3 scenes. The first 4 chapters could be categorized as looking back and remembering the past 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. The next section seems to be a looking up to know God's will. And then the final section is looking to the future. Some other facts about Deuteronomy are the following. The book is quoted some 85 times in the New Testament. There are only 6 books of the New Testament that do not quote from it. It is also among the 4 most quoted books of the Old Testament. It was also one of Jesus' favorite books to quote from. The first 5 books of the Old Testament comprise about a quarter of the Old Testament, and almost as large as the entire New Testament. There are so many lessons found in Deuteronomy as well. One would be public instruction was not enough, that daily home instruction is also needed, just as it is today. Moses laid the responsibility for the preservation of the nation on every citizen, each one. It is the same in the church today. We learn the most effective way to guard against the corruption of truth is by a continual reading and teaching of God's Word. Again, it's no different for today. Moses' life teaches us that one unforgiven sin can rob us of heaven, no matter how much good we have done. We learn that the cause of God can easily be forgotten and is never more than 1 generation away from apostasy. Jesus is the prophet like Moses, and whoever will not hear him shall be cut off. God has always hated false witnesses. Another lesson, obedience to God always brings blessings. Disobedience brings curses. The secret things belong to God, while the things revealed belong to us. Deuteronomy, the 5th book of the Bible, the last book of the Torah, the Pentateuch, or sometimes called the Law, which they were all written by Moses.